Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video and for being here with me today. So I just got back from a bucket list trip to Tokyo Disneyland Resort, and there is a lot of information to share. So as promised, I have some Tokyo Disneyland content for you. Over the next few weeks, I will be bringing you with me, and I'm going to be taking you on this journey with me to the parks. I'll be giving you all the information that will hopefully be helpful if you are planning to travel there and to help you get the most out of your trip. I will be doing a whole series of videos on all the different experiences getting to and getting around the park. I'll be giving you some information on international travel and transportation. I'm going to talk about the hotels, the food, the popcorn, and much more. So before we get started today, make sure that you are subscribed so that you can come back for those and you don't miss out on all that information. In today's video, I'm going to take you all the way back to the beginning. I'm going to bring you back to a few months before our travels, and I'm going to walk you through a little of the planning process before we got to the park itself. So I'm going to talk about how we decided on the times to go, what considerations to make, and I'm also going to walk you through the ticket buying process and tips on how to plan your initial trip. So I'm going to talk about what I experienced in terms of crowds and weather and the tools that I used to take that into consideration when I traveled there. First, let's talk about the travel to Tokyo. So there are two major airports to choose from in the Tokyo area. So we booked our flight in March for a trip in June. And the flight we had booked took us into Haneda, traveling to Japan. And this airport is going to be the closest to Tokyo Disneyland. And when we flew home, we flew out of Narita, which is a little bit further from Tokyo Disneyland. But since we did spend the night there, it gave us a chance to see a little bit more of Japan outside of the Disney parks. There is transportation from both of those airports that will take you directly to the Disneyland Resort, and I will talk about that a little bit later. I'm going to talk more about the times to visit and what my experience was like when we went there. So the weather in Japan is fairly similar to how it is across different parts of the US. So it can be cold in the winter and it can be hot and humid in the summer. Most of the rain comes mid-June through November. And summer is when humidity can really start to jump. So you start to get that spike in humidity, and then you start to get more rainy days as those months go on. And the humidity can sometimes make it feel warmer. So although the weather is nicer, so if you prefer warmer weather, this might be a great time to go. But again, that humidity is going to make it feel a lot warmer. Crowds here can vary as well. But there are some predictable patterns with higher crowds during weekends and during local school breaks, which in Japan fall around March and April. So busy times also fall right around New Year's. So the end of December to early January are also historically busy times for the Tokyo Disneyland Resort. Although summer can be busy as well, rainy days can often draw crowds away from the park. There are a few areas in the park, such as Mermaid Lagoon over at Tokyo Disney Sea, which provide a nice shelter for the rain, and these areas are really popular during rainy days, and many of the ride queues are covered as well. We were there the second week of June, and as the date approached, the forecast for rain varied a lot. And rain was forecasted for one of the days during our trip. It did rain through the night and was raining in the morning on that second day of our trip, but we didn't get any rain during the day, which was nice. So we got really lucky when it came to raining when we were at the park. However, we did still pack our ponchos to be prepared for being in the park in the rain. And because that weather was somewhat unpredictable, we wanted to be prepared. It also was quite humid when we were there. So although humidity wasn't something that we weren't used to, it did make it a lot warmer. The weather overall was really nice. It was in the 70s for most of the day and hovered around the low 80s here and there. but it did feel really nice. It cooled down a great deal at night, which gave us a little bit of break from the heat. In terms of the crowds, I would say we saw moderate crowds. So we didn't see those 3-hour waits like you would see during the March and April or during those peak times, but it still was quite crowded, especially with the recent opening of Fantasy Springs. So that grand opening was a few days before we went. So Tokyo Disney Sea was obviously a little bit busier because that was a very exciting time to visit the park. There are a lot of great resources online to help understand the crowds, and these crowd calculators can be really helpful to figure out when these predictable patterns are. I will link the one that I used in the description. It is in Japanese. However, it was really easy to interpret with the colors that were indicated on the calendar, and the numbers of the month were also in the provided calendar. So it was really easy for me to use that information to figure out what weeks might be busy or what the crowd was predicted to look like when we were planning on visiting the park. So let's talk about buying tickets and what that ticket buying process looks like. So there is a 2-month purchase window for tickets to both parks. This means that tickets are made available to purchase 2 months ahead of the date of your visit. And these dates are based on Japan time. So for example, if you're planning to visit one of the parks or your first park October 2nd, you can purchase an admission ticket for that day as of 9 a.m. August 2nd, Japan time. So just make the time zone calculation or conversion to your current time zone. They currently do not sell multi-day tickets, so you will have to make separate transactions for each day. And there are 2 main ways that you're going to be able to buy tickets. So first is through the website. So one thing to note about purchasing tickets through the website is that it is an international transaction, since you are technically purchasing tickets for in Japan. So keep that in mind if your credit card has any international transaction fees, as there may be a possibility that it might have difficulty going through just as a transaction. Many of the airline or travel credit cards come without a transaction fee. So make sure that you look into that information ahead of time if you are going to purchase tickets directly through the website. You can also make reservations on third-party sites. Klook, for example, and this is not sponsored, but Klook is one that has been highly recommended and has been used by family members to book tickets for attractions in Japan. So they will make the currency conversions for you. You can buy your tickets directly through them, and they will make the currency conversions for you, and the transaction will be in the currency based on your location. The second option is to purchase it directly through the apps. So the same rules and the same steps apply here, but there were times that interactions just ran smoother on the app than they did on the website. And I think it just could be if the website was busy, it's a busy time of the day, it's just easier getting through, easier navigating on the app. And I do recommend downloading the app before you go. This will allow you to manage any of your hotel reservations and also book any of those tickets if you choose to. Although it's a separate app, it is the same. You will be using the same account that you are using for the other Disney parks. So just use that same login and you'll be able to manage a lot of things directly through the app. So now let's talk about the price of admissions and the price of the park tickets. Similar to the US parks, there is a varied pricing model for Tokyo Disneyland Resort. And this is based on the day that you visit the park, based on the popularity of that day that you're going to visit the park. We were there for a total of 4 days, and I'm going to break down what we paid for on all 4 of those days in yen. So you can convert it if you need to the currency that you would be using to purchase the tickets. The first day we went was a Sunday. So this was the most expensive day because it was a weekend. And we paid 9,900 yen per person, which came out to be $62.68 United States dollar, which is the currency that I was using to purchase tickets. Monday, we went to Tokyo Disney Sea, and it was a little bit cheaper because it was a weekday at $9,400 per person for park admission, which came out to be around $59.50 United States dollars. But of course, you can make this conversion to your currency. Tuesday and Wednesday, since these fell in the middle of the week for Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea respectively, we paid 8,900 yen per person for park admission, which came out to around $56.30. So the price of admission to the Tokyo Disneyland Resort parks was a lot cheaper than the American park. So now let's talk about how to get to the Tokyo Disneyland Resort from the airport. And you have a few options here to choose from that will take you directly to the Tokyo Disneyland Resort or to your hotel. The most expensive option is going to be a taxi or an Uber, which I wouldn't recommend, although these are direct. It's going to be a little bit pricey, and a lot more pricey than they are in the United States. The cheapest option is going to be the Tokyo monorail or their public transportation system. This won't be the fastest or more direct route, but it will be the cheapest. The third option is going to be somewhere in the middle in terms of cost, and this is a limousine bus to and from the airport. And no, this isn't a limousine as you're thinking, but it is basically a shuttle bus that will take you directly from the airport to the Disneyland Resort and directly to your hotel. So it is super convenient and it's really comfortable. So these are shuttle buses, but they are really, really nice. And this is personally what I would recommend in terms of transportation to and from the airport. These can be booked directly through the airport website. Remembering that if you are booking it through the website, this will be an international transaction, just like booking tickets through the website, since it does charge you in yen. You can also use third-party sites like Klook to book it directly with your current currency. So this is definitely also a really good option when you are looking at booking this. And not only was this direct to the hotel, so you would just, when you get to the airport, you just walk down and you look for wherever the shuttle buses are typically pick you up. And not only was this direct to the hotel, it was affordable. So from the Haneda Airport, we paid around 1,300 yen per person. And to the Narita Airport, directly from the Tokyo Disneyland Hotel, we paid 2,300 yen per person. So this is definitely what I recommend in terms of getting back and forth to the airport. Hopefully this information will help you get started in the first phase of your trip to the Tokyo Disneyland Resort. Thank you so much for being here today. And in my next upcoming videos, I'm going to give you more information on when you actually get to the park. And that is going to include transportation within the parks. But hopefully this was enough to get you started. And it's going to give you some really great information to help make your travel smooth and to help with that decision-making process when you are looking at planning your trip. So make sure that you subscribe, and I would love to have you back here for more information, and I will see you next time.